Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. Before we get started, let's introduce everyone on the meeting. Sandy Brock, when I call your name, please confirm that you can hear me by verifying that you are present. Starting with the commissioners, Jonathan,
Present.
Amira,
Present.
Bill.
Present.
Okay, and for our staff, Leah,
I'm here. It's just me tonight.
just you
Yep.
holding down the fort. Okay. Um, so let's get going. This open meeting of the Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely via Zoom pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order, as most recently extended on March 29th, 2023. Access information for the public has been provided on the town website. This meeting is being recorded. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. This is done on the phone by pressing *6. As chair, will introduce each speaker on the agenda. Please note that you will not have sharing screen privileges, but staff can display any visuals per your queue. During the period of public comment, participants must use the raise hand icon in the Zoom menu bar to indicate they would like to speak. This is done on the phone by pressing *9 and then pressing *6 to unmute when you are called upon. Participants who raise their hand will be recognized one at a time and will be promoted to speak. Finally, each vote taken will be conducted by a roll call vote. As a reminder, the Commission is concerned with state and town wetlands and stormwater regulations. Concerns outside this purview will need to be addressed by the appropriate boards. For example, road conditions must be addressed by the Select Board, and traffic concerns must be addressed with the Planning Board. Okay. So, having said that, it's 7:09. Do we have any action items?
2 sets of meeting minutes.
So, I went through the meeting minutes and kind of would like to have one of them still had comments on it.
Oh, okay.
So,
What do you know
yeah,
which one?
I forget which one.
That's fine.
So I'd like to kind of go through those meeting minutes. I guess we're having someone different write them.
Yep.
Okay, so it's not active voice. It's very inconsistent. I mean, it's minutes. It should be really boring, the same thing and the same, kind of phrasing used in it and always active and always, yeah. So I think I'll take one of them and go through it and not just mark it up, but also say, you know, his kind of, we always had this kind of standard way of doing it and
Mhm.
it's been working out great. Now it's a little bit different. So we just want to make sure we're consistent on how we have our minutes.
Sure.
Boring is good for technical writing. So you don't need to keep changing the way you say things. So that would be a key thing.
Okay.
So I think we should wait on those two meeting minutes. I think it was July 16th that was marked up, but
Okay.
but anyways, yeah, I'll have a side conversation and
Sure.
let's try to get something, get it back into the flow of things. So, and is that the only? And I'll open it up to the commission if anyone had a chance to read the meeting minutes, if anyone had any other comments. So, I know, Jonathan, did you get a chance to look at them?
Glanced at them, saw that they were, I think I was in both of those meetings as well. I don't think I've missed one in the last couple of years here. So,
Yeah. And my issues wasn't so much what was in there, it was, how it was
formatting.
written. Yeah, the formatting and phrasing and things like that. So,
Mhm. Understood.
yep. So we can kind of clean that up. Okay. All right. Anything else? Otherwise, we're hanging out for, or do we need to wait till 7:15 or can we just rock and roll?
No,
Is
there's
it
no time certain, so you're good to go.
okay. Sounds great. So let's go. So pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw, and the Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing to act upon a notice of intent, applications for Grafton Stormwater Permit, and applications for Grafton Wetlands Bylaw Permit for the construction of PFAS treatment plants at 77 R Snow Road and 98 Worcester Street. This is a continuation. And who's here to present the update?
Hello, everyone. Isabel Arthur Long. I'm a project environmental scientist with Ty and Bond. Also here is Timothy Grace, and in the attendees list, Amber Bowles, both professional engineers with Ty and Bond. And we have Matt Pearson here from the district as well.
You have the floor.
Excellent, thank you. So we sent over a package last week that included updated project drawings and a list of what was updated for each project, along with the responses to Mass DEP comments for the East Street site. And I'm happy to take the commission's lead on how, to what extent you'd like to walk through those materials, or if you have any questions.
Can you do like a high level walkthrough of the DEP and just tell me which particular site you're starting with?
Sure. So the DEP comments for Worcester Street, we addressed at the last meeting, and we haven't had any response from them. So the new response is regarding the East Street site. They had some comments, about the base flood elevation that was shown on the plans, and making sure that the impacts measured within BLSF were accurate, and we explained why those were accurate and shown at the elevations that they were. Excellent, thank you. They asked about alternative siting locations for stormwater systems and for the water treatment plant, and we explained the constraints at the project site, which is very small, and very little area exists outside of buffer zone. Also, of course, the stormwater needed to be at lower elevations in the project site so that it could facilitate drainage to those areas and they would actually be functional. The compensatory flood storage was addressed in a couple of these comments, and that has been clarified on the project plans. The reviewer from DEP was under the impression that the stormwater basin itself was going to be providing that compensatory flood storage. The drawings have been updated to reflect clear compensatory storage area on the opposite side of the driveway, closer to the water treatment plant. They also brought up this issue of a 50-foot of the basin being located within the 50-foot buffer zone, and in response, that stormwater management system has been updated into a bioretention basin, which does not have that same 50-foot setback requirement. Regarding test pits, the test pits were performed, and then the basin size needed to expand. So while we are confident that the soils on that site are consistent with what's mapped by USGS geologic mapping and the Web soil survey, there will be additional test pits prior to construction to just verify that. Seasonal high water elevations were called out on the project plans at the request of the DEP reviewer. And then finally, this last comment suggested that we had invoked exemptions for work within BLSF. Exemptions are only eligible in buffer zone, and that was recognized in our initial application. And they reference performance standards for riverfront area as well, which is not present on this project site. So I think that was some level of confusion between the two projects, maybe, since they had the same reviewer. Happy to expand on any of those points.
Sure. Let's just switch to Leah. Do you want to do a report out on what you've seen with the updates?
Yeah, do you want to just stick to one site for now or both?
Let's stick with the East Street one just to get that completed and off the.
Sure. So I have one question, which is you guys updated the compensatory flood storage table on sheet C-104. Does that change the impact numbers in the NOI for BLSF?
It doesn't change any of the aerial impacts within BLSF.
Okay. What
Um,
about
the
storage?
storage, the accurate storage is reflected within that table.
Okay. Can you just send to the office just the updated cubic feet lost and cubic feet replaced, just to make sure we get the
Yes.
numbers right for the order, and it's all consistent.
Happy to.
Thank you. The only other like question or outstanding item I had at this time was just that last time we talked a lot about could LID be incorporated further, and I didn't know if there was any additional exploration of that. Beyond that, I have findings and waivers and conditions.
Yep.
Yeah, we looked at basically anything we could to provide for LID techniques on this site, and the challenge is just essentially the building program itself. You know, the size of the building, the amount of turning radius we need to provide for the trucks to get in and out of there, where it's just it's become an issue where we're essentially out of space. There's no other areas that we could find to potentially employ an LID technique. One of the things we looked at, which I think was suggested by the commission, was taking credit for basically the voids within the gravel areas that we were providing, and we were able to kind of do that, but not get a ton of storage out of those areas, essentially because the gravel that they want to use out there is like a TRG, which gets pretty compact after a few years of being installed. So there's not much we could take for credit in the storage voids of that material, just because after a few years on site, it's the voids essentially disappear. We looked at employing a couple different gradations of gravel to make something like that work, but again, we essentially ran out of usable area to employ some of these techniques just because of the constraints of the site.
So did I hear when you were talking about in response to DEP that the basin is now a bioretention?
Correct. We switched from infiltration to bioretention.
So so that's kind of a more of a change for green infrastructure there.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
But short of that, we're out of real estate.
Okay. So let me go around to our commissioners and just get if anyone has any questions and so forth, or if there's anything else. I think, Leah, if you just bring up the one site plan that shows the updated grading for the compensation, that area that was clarified. And while you're doing that, I'll go around. Jonathan, any additional questions based on or additional like recommendations for conditions or anything else?
No, I did appreciate that they shifted that to bioretention. It makes sense, and again, an effort. I get the tight site. A lot of my sites are very tight and same kind of situation, so it's a familiar thing here in New England. So
Yeah.
no other questions or concerns.
Amira, do you have any questions or any suggestions for waivers or not waivers, excuse me, of conditions?
So I did have a question. I wanted to ask why TRG gravel was used if it wouldn't allow you guys to take advantage of the voids that you mentioned.
Yeah, so that's essentially a function of the vehicles that are going to be traveling on that. We've had problems in the past where if we employ a stone that has more voids to it, it becomes problematic with the especially heavier loaded vehicles navigating that surface. So we essentially got the input from our structural group, and they said, if you're going to put a material out there, it should be TRG.
Thank you.
And just for the record, could you tell what the TRG stands for?
Oh, I'm sorry. TRG is actually an acronym for trap rock gravel.
Right. It just has to do with the gradation of the trap rock, and it's a manufactured gravel type of thing. Yeah. With, edges and stuff. So it does compact, and I understand that process, and it was just a matter of, was there any other opportunities, and you discussed it, whether there could be a section where you could have some stone and do a choker course or something like that. And it's too close to groundwater. So Bill, do you have any questions or recommendations for conditions?
No, not from me.
All right, great. So Leah, as far as your special conditions, I jotted one down that you already had here, which is the test pits. You had data shall be provided from additional test pits conducted for the basin.
Yep.
So going back to the applicant, as far as the bioretention in the soil testing, are you taking credit for any infiltration, or is it really just the seasonal high groundwater that you need to confirm?
It's essentially going to be seasonal high groundwater that
Okay.
we're after.
Okay.
We do quite a bit of test pits in these prior to construction, and that's more of a company policy per se than following the Mass DEP regulations. We've been bit before in the past, so we sleep a lot better at night knowing if we do more test pits out there, more data is always better, right?
Right. Well, I would say to a certain extent, because if you go too many test pits, you disturb all of the soils underneath, and you potentially can alter what these soils are. So it's always to me been a balancing act of having enough into determining. And sometimes, from my perspective, it's doing the test pits I have no problem with, but maybe not in the middle of the basin, because all you're doing is disturbing that soil. You no longer have the soil, you just test it, which is kind of based on how we typically do the soil testing. Yeah.
Yep.
But again, it's having enough testing to, have a certain amount of certainty, which we can't always with any kind of soil investigation, that you have consistency across. So, okay. So
Sandy, I have one quick question if I can
Sure.
jump in. Is this facility gonna be used throughout the winter? And accessed in the winter for maintenance or replacement of filters, or is this something that's touched once a year? Like, is there gonna be plow trucks in here and sanders or salting or anything like that to maintain the gravel access, or is this only, how often is this used, and is it used in the winter?
Yeah, I would expect that this was going to be a facility that the district would need access to year round.
And
Okay.
just from my own kind of personal, observations living down the street a ways and doing a walking route through here and actually walking down here a lot, you tend to have staff from the district go down there. I see them, if not daily. They've got to go in and check different things. So I would think that they'd have, I mean, they have four-wheel pickup trucks going in there, but I would guess that they would keep it somewhat cleared and so forth. But it's
So I
not,
guess,
yeah.
sorry, Sandy.
Yeah.
My question was born out of, I didn't see an area where there might be snow storage and you have a drive lane right next to a bioretention, I say right next to, there's a slope down into that bioretention. So is there a plan for snow storage? If there's a plow or a DPW or some vehicle that's going to come in there, and then is there some type of a plan for salting and the proximity to some of the, it's a tight site, as you pointed out. So if they're going to salt in there, because I mean, we just saw it a few weeks ago with all the rain that turned to ice. So if this thing turns into an ice rink, is there just a plan or any type of, mostly because of the proximity of all these storage locations as well as fire retention. I'm assuming we wouldn't want to fill those with salt. And then I'm not sure how the plan is to handle the clearing of the TRG. If it's just to skim it to get most of the snow off and then the rest melts off or whatever. But if there are vehicles that are going to be in there constantly, you know, in terms of pickup trucks and town access for the district or whatever, what's the plan there? And is that something that needs to be included as a special condition or a condition or some kind of a note for the project? Just because I didn't see it and I did a quick search of the PDF and I didn't find the word snow or anything like that. Storage is listed, but only for compensatory storage. So I didn't know if that was something that was discussed, thought of, anything like that.
Yeah, so I will say on other properties
I
that the
can
district
comment on
owns.
it if you
Oh,
want.
go for it, Matt.
Yeah, so basically we do not salt at all because of the well source. We get enough salt off the Mass Pike. We don't need any more sodium in the water. If we do have to put treatment down, it's just basically sand. And we usually don't plow around the buildings unless we need to. So we just plow during the winter where our chemical truck deliveries are. And the present building, we usually plow to the rear of the air stripper. Sandra knows where that is, towards the back of the building. So I have to, kind of agree with her. And we do, yes, we do use the facility 365 days a year. So there is traffic in and out, and chemical deliveries are, once or twice a month, with some larger trucks. So hopefully that answers your questions.
Yeah. So Lee, if you zoom out just a little bit, and I think if you kind of look, at the very end of the driveway, the existing driveway, you probably have, which is, yeah. So I'm talking about just where it goes in front of the building, the existing building, and there's some area down there, and there's a little driveway that continues on. I think it actually goes to the well or something. So there's a little bit of room there. But I agree with you, Jonathan. We should have a condition about, since they do not do any salting, we should just carry that as a condition. It makes sense. This is a drinking water supply, that we really want to make sure that, that's not an impact, not to mention the fact that bioretention's right there. And then as far as snow plowing goes, um, other than, the district showing up and please tell me if I'm incorrect, in a couple times of deliveries, you'll have to address the snow based on what you need to do to get in there, but it's not someplace that's open to the public or anything.
Correct. Yeah. No, we just plow what we need to, and in all the years we've had the existing building, we've never had an issue where,
Yeah.
we had snow problems.
But I do agree with you, Jonathan, that we should also just have a condition that, snow can't be stored in the bioretention. You can't plow the snow into the bioretention, which shouldn't be an issue here, but it's just nice to have it actually in the conditions. So
Yeah, if it works its way into an O&M manual or whatever this design or whatever that condition works its way into the order, that would be helpful. Just again, even trying to cut through the snowbank at the edge of the road, coming in, just making sure we're not piling it into any of I'm assuming the compensatory storage would be viewed in the same light. We wouldn't want to pile snow in there. It would be off to the perimeters of the parking or the drive lane around the building, basically.
yeah,
So-
it'd probably be pushed all the way. And the thing about the road coming in there, you don't hit wetlands till quite a way. So when you look at from an aerial perspective, I don't know. I don't know if it's, how many hundreds of feet. So it's quite a bit distance off of East Street.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, and then that's all, then it lines houses, and then it's just woods and the railroad tracks, and then you get back down in this area, and obviously that's where all this activity is going. So
I was thinking the road was closer to the plan north side of this page, but that nonetheless, the salt
Yeah.
would be one, limiting it to sand and then no stone storage, and the other ones might be another good
Right,
condition.
yeah, just to do it. We've just heard that that's not the plan, so,
Right.
it's just then making sure that anyone in the future understands that.
Yep. That's all I got.
All
Sorry to
right.
interrupt.
No, no problem. Sounds good. Leah, anything else on your special conditions?
Do you want me to do findings and waivers now too?
Sure, why don't we just get this one totally done? Yeah.
Okay, so this one would have one finding that it's a limited project. Per 310 CMR 10.5330 expansion of public water supply wells. They're requesting two waivers, one to exceed 5,000 square feet of resource area impacts, and the other to work in our no disturb. And then in addition to, we talked about the data from the test pits, snow not being stored in the basins, not using salt, only sand. The last one I had was just that there's one sheet that they were unable to finalize for the plan set, which is the utilities sheet. So we would just ask for that finalized sheet to be provided when they work out those details.
Yeah, and I would just add to, additional test pit conducted and the data shall be provided. Specifically that the groundwater elevation was confirmed with the additional testing. Just so that if for some reason it's different, that we're given the heads up, that's all. I'm sure they'll let us know, but that it's the groundwaters, that's the key on that one.
Okay.
All right. Before we get any further, I'd like to just open this up to any public that happens to be on. If you have any questions, please raise your hand. I don't know, Leah, how many people are even online, if any.
Pretty much us.
Okay. Okay. That sounds good. So based on that, so how do you want to do the once we get to um the vote, how do you want to do it? All the votes at the end, or do you want to do one at a time?
I think we can do it all at the end. It's the same waiver request, so we
Okay.
can group those then, and then we can do a final one to close and issue both sets per findings and conditions discussed.
All right, that sounds good.
Okay.
So why don't we switch to 98 Worcester Street? I'll give you a second, Leah, to so I'll go back to the applicant. If you could just update us on any changes and responses and etc. for 98 Worcester Street.
Sure. So updated drawings were supplied for Worcester Street. I'm just pulling up our list of changes. They're very minor things like new line types for utilities. Let me just make sure I get my list so I don't forget anything. Right, so for Worcester Street, the finished floor elevation was increased by 0.07 feet. There were minor grading updates to match updated door locations. No impacts on grading volumes or aerial impacts there. And then minor viewport adjustments. So really the only updates since the last meeting for Worcester Street were these minor drawing changes.
All right, thank you. Leah, I want to go through your report out on 98 Worcester.
Sure. We should read through, I don't think we've done it in the previous hearing, but we should read through what Natural Heritage had to say, because
I
we will
saw
have
that,
to
yeah.
incorporate those conditions as well. So I can pull that up in a second. I guess same LID question as before. I'm sure it's similar explanation, but if you could just speak to that for a second.
Yeah, it's essentially the same story. We're on a pretty tight site, constrained by the type of vehicles that are going to access the site and the size of the building, balancing that with trying to do as little disturbance as possible. And so it's essentially how we got here. We did the best we could, but like I said, given the constraints that these sites have on us trying to minimize our impact, this is where we landed.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to find the Natural Heritage in the background.
I figured you were trying to look at some of the other things.
Yeah. Um, let's see. Okay, here we go. So let me share this. Okay. So they came back with a list of conditions because it's within mapped habitat for the wood turtle, which I suggest making as a finding. Then we need to
Yep.
incorporate these conditions, so this will become an attachment to our order as well. But just to read through them real quick. This authorization is valid for 5 years from the date of issuance. Work can be completed at any time during the 5-year period in compliance with the conditions herein. Thereafter, the applicant must refile pursuant to MISA. Number 2, limits of work. No work or alteration to the soil, surface, or vegetation shall occur outside the limits of work shown on the plan set unless approved otherwise in writing by NHESP. Number 3, use of native species unless otherwise approved in writing by the division. All seeds and plantings not thereafter maintained as lawn shall be native to the county as provided in the Vascular Plants of Massachusetts County Checklist. Number 4, which is the big one, turtle protection plan. Prior to the start of work, including vegetation clearing or soil disturbance, the applicant shall submit a turtle protection plan to the division for review and written approval. Said plan shall detail procedures for protecting state-listed turtles during construction and be prepared and implemented by a qualified division-approved wildlife biologist. The division is available for consultation on plan development and can provide contact info for qualified biologists. The division-approved plan shall be implemented as written. Any proposed changes to the plan must be submitted to the division for review and written approval prior to implementation of said changes. Please note that protective measures for state-listed turtles are required for any construction activities occurring between April 15 and November 15 of any year, unless otherwise approved by the division. By December 31st of any year in which work occurs, the qualified biologist shall submit a summary report to the division detailing project status and compliance with the plan, as well as any observations of state-listed turtles at, and then they give a link to report those. And number 5, compliance report within 30 days of the completion of work or as otherwise approved by the division. The applicant shall submit a brief written report to the division documenting compliance with the conditions herein, including representative photographs or supplemental documentation as necessary. So we need to include that in our conditions, which I can take you guys through, or I can just pause there while you guys ask any questions you have.
Sure, yeah, because I have just kind of one question, not a question, but another recommendation, a condition. But let's just go around to the commission to see if anyone has any questions, on this parcel. So this part of the permitting process, this is done through Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program. So it's kind of administered through the wetlands sort of, but there is a separate permit, but but again, we do it in kind of conjunction. So we're not really gonna change any of these conditions or anything like that. This is coming you know, from Natural Heritage, and they're the experts on this. So I'll just go quickly around in case there's anything. Amara, do you have any questions on this?
Have questions.
No. And Jonathan
Nope, no questions.
and Bill?
No.
Okay. And the only other thing I was going to say is if we could get copies of the plan, that's going to go to Natural Heritage and a copy of the reports, more just so to have it documentation in our files that it's being done. We're not going to review it or make any comments on it. It's more just to have it as a record. So that's the only thing I can think to add to that, Leah.
Okay.
And that would be a separate condition. All right. Why don't you keep on rocking and rolling on your kind of report?
Sure. So just like the other one, limited project status per 310 CMR 105330. It's the same expansion of public water supply wells. They are requesting the same 2 waivers exceeding 5,000 square feet of impacts and working in the no disturb. And then beyond what we just talked about, an additional finding for this one is that we do have a second order open at the moment on this property for their retaining wall repair, so we're making an exception to our policy of
Okay.
one open order per property at a time. So just to capture that. And then for special conditions, we'll need the same one about the finalized utility plan sheet. And I would pull in the 2 we came up with for Snow Road, which is
Jump in.
no.
The utility plan for this one is actually finalized and indicates for construction, I believe, if you want to scroll down to this one. It's just East Street that is not finalized.
Okay, I think you said that in your first email, and then your second email, you said it was both, so I wasn't sure.
Oh, okay. I remembered it being the opposite, but we'll just make sure.
Either way, yeah,
Next page.
this one, yeah, preliminary, not for construction.
Okay, excellent.
And then I would just pull in the 2 from Snow Road, which is don't store the snow in the basins and no use of salt, just sand.
And I just have one kind of overarching or one kind of big question. The need for this plant is all under state regulations for PFAS.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, I just want to just because the federal laws are going to change or they've been already changed. So that's. But if this is under state, then my question goes away. So
David, we're getting a bunch of background noise.
there you go. All right. Okay. Other than that, next steps, Leah. Oh, one thing is for this particular for 98 Worcester Street, if anyone online who happens to be online, if you have anyone from the public has any comments or questions, please raise your hand. We'll be happy to respond to them. And we'll just monitor the public to see if anyone has any questions. Okay. All right. Go back to the applicant. Do you have any questions at this point?
I don't have any questions, but I would invite Tim or Matt if either of you have questions on those conditions.
Nope, I'm all set.
I'll sit here.
Okay. All right. So I think, Leah, to kind of just to expedite this kind of process is if we could have, so first of all, okay, so let's do one thing at a time. Let's get the waivers granted, which should be fairly. So we'll, any particular one you want to start on, Leah?
Nope, either way.
Okay, so 98 happens to be up in front of me. So can I have, a motion to grant a waiver. And now I gotta find where the waivers is. Requested from exceeding 5,000 square feet impacts and for performing in the no disturb zone. So that's the first thing is a waiver request from our local bylaw. Do I have a motion
moved.
on that? Okay, we have so moved on. Jonathan, do I have a second?
Second that motion.
Thank you. Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call vote. Now this vote is only on the waivers. So Jonathan,
Yes.
Amira,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
and I'm also a yes, the motion carries. So that is one thing down for the waivers for 98 Worcester Street. We'll now do waivers for 77R Snow Road. So again, it's the same waivers requested. Waivers are from exceeding 5,000 square feet impacts and for the no disturb zone. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to grant waivers for exceeding 5,000 square foot and work within the no disturb for 77R Snow Road.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Since you're up here on my screen, Amira,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
and Jonathan,
Yep.
and I am also a yes. The motion carries. Okay. All right. So, Leah, special conditions are all of them the same except for the natural heritage, right?
Um, findings are different.
Okay. So why don't we go through the findings for each one, and then we can do the special conditions, and probably be able to do it all in one vote. Or do we want
Okay.
to do separate votes?
I kind of thought we were just gonna say as discussed. So.
Okay. Okay. All right.
But I can, do you want me to do a recap of one and then the other? And then
Yeah.
you
Why
guys
don't we
can
do
vote?
that? Yeah. Why don't we do that to keep it so no one's confused? Why don't you do a quick recap and then we can have
Okay.
a motion.
All right. Okay, so for 98 North Street, we have a finding that it's the limited project status. We have a finding that we have a second order open on that property. And we have a finding that the site is within mapped wood turtle habitat. In terms of special conditions, again, for 98 Worcester Street, we need the final utilities plan. We will incorporate everything natural heritage is asking for, as well as we will ask for a copy of those documents as well. No use of salt in the winter, and don't store the snow in the basins. For 77 rear snow, let's see. We have a finding that it's limited project status. And I think that's the only finding on that one. And then we have special conditions for the utilities, finalized utilities plan, data to be given to us from the additional test pits to confirm seasonal high groundwater, no storage of snow in the basins, and no use of salt in the winter.
Okay. And the only other thing is to get a copy of the turtle protection plan for 98.
Yep.
So we have that all recapped. Do I have a motion?
We'll make a motion to close the issue and sorry, been a long day. Close the
Yes.
hearing and issue the order and permits for both 98 Worcester Street and 77R Snow Road with all conditions as discussed and recapped.
Right. All conditions and findings. Thank you. Yep. So we have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Jonathan,
Yes.
Amira,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
and I am also a yes. The motion carries. As far as the applicant, if do you have any questions, we're pretty much finished from our side.
Excellent. Thank you. Leah, if you're able to just send me electronic copies of the orders when they're ready, I can get them recorded and send them back to you all.
Sure.
All
Perfect.
right, good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, Leah, anything else for tonight?
Nope.
Okay. I'll just go. Does anyone else have any kind of questions or comments? Tonight was an interesting one just because there was a lot of we did findings, which we don't always do um on every hearing, and then obviously there was some waivers but just I'm just wondering if anyone has any questions on the process, and if you do, you can always ask them no matter what stage we're at. So
I don't have a
um,
question, but
Yep.
it was cool to see the recommendation based on the turtle, the endangered species or protected
Yep.
species, because I just learned about that in one of the classes I've been
Uh,
taking. I
oh,
can't remember
okay.
which one, but we talked about how sometimes if there's an endangered species
Yep.
present in an area, you'll have to work with.
Natural heritage.
Thank you.
I am trying to. One reason I asked them to say what the acronym was. Um, every every different business has their whole thing of their own jargon and acronyms. And if you don't ever know what something is, I'm a big one. I'm always asking because I use them too. But I don't know. It's a lot of times people don't know. And everyone has different acronyms for different things, and it's gets really confusing.
Sure.
It's come on, just say it. It's only 3 words. Come on. So, but that's yeah, but if you have that, so that's good. Yeah, and this is a good experience, natural heritage. I mean, we're not gonna well, let me say, we do not tend to add any additional conditions on that. There are times when, if someone's doing a replication and, you have, you know, something of, wildlife or a plant of concern or something, we may have our own consultant look at it. But again, they're the specialty and the permitting agent for uh, the endangered species. So, we're not going to step on their toes, so to speak. So, but that was good. Yeah, that was a little different. There's a little bit of everything in these here and the waiver system and how we do waivers. So, but that was pretty much it. Other than that, as I will continue to say at the near the end of every meeting, is there one more motion?
Before you
Motion
do
to
that, I have a question. Sorry.
Sure. No, go ahead. Yep.
It's very simple. During the discussion, the term LID technique was mentioned. I don't
Yep.
know what that means.
Sure. So it's now kind of a little bit an outdated one. So LID, which is listed in the stormwater manual, is called low impact design. So it's basically more of a nature-based type of system. So the low impact design is more based on it's more of a landscape solution sometimes, as opposed to catch basins and pipes and things like that. So it probably came out. God, it's been a low impact design has been around for a long time. Nowadays, it's typically referred to, or it's kind of merged into green infrastructure, which yes, everyone calls GI. So it's, again, all the acronyms and stuff like that. So if you look in the stormwater manual, you'll see references to low impact design and they go into what the definition is. So,
Thank you.
yep, not a problem. Yeah, feel free to ask any of those. And doesn't mean I'll know them all, but we can find out about it and stuff. So, all right.
After 18 plus years in construction, I still get bamboozled by somebody throwing some acronym or some phraseology at me. They toss it out there and it's just like, explain it to me like I'm 5. What does that mean? Because, and then it's something that's like, what? Why wouldn't you, like you said, why wouldn't you just call it, something?
Dense gravel instead of calling. Why don't you just call it dense gravel?
Here's this acronym that makes it seem like it's,
Something
really
special.
It's designed to confuse the innocent.
Yeah, it's manufactured gravel is what it is, as opposed to naturally occurring gravel. So it's just crushed stone in different sizes, and it's designed so it compacts, and it compacts pretty hard. So I get it. But again, that specific terminology you'll see, but every location is different. Every state is different. Trust me, I have, and I'm always the one on the meeting that asks what they are. And because I may know what it is, but unfortunately, there's probably, someone on or many people on that don't have a clue what the acronym is. So I just put it out there. So, anyways,
Especially
Yep.
if a member of the public's on and listening, they might not have a clue at all either. So it's good to just be open.
yeah, I mean, if I went into a healthcare facility and everyone started using acronyms, I'm going to just look at them dumbfounded because, okay, what is that? So it is what it is type of thing. So, all right. And again, don't ever worry about asking questions and stuff because it's one
Right.
way to learn and stuff. So,
Yep.
okay. What's up now?
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Bill, you're on my screen, so you get to go first.
Yes.
Amara
Yes.
and Jonathan. Oh, I missed you.
Yes.
Okay, I am also a yes. The motion carries. And then Leah got to hang out with us by herself tonight and survived. So